Hello, my name is Deanna, and in this video we'll be looking at watercolours. If you've got a half pan set of paints or a whole pan set of paints and I'm not quite sure what colours these are because they look a lot darker than what you get on paper, I'll show you how to make a watercolour swatch with all the colours and the names written down so that it's nice and clear what colours you have in there and it fits in there so it's nice and handy when you need them. If you'd like to learn more about watercolours, then download my free guide on watercolours with tips and tricks to help fast track your skills. When you acquire new sets of watercolour paints, it might be a good idea to make a little colour swatch that lives inside. This is to help you identify what colours are actually in there very easily and visually, like that brown there. You can see what colour it is. So this is my Winsor & Newton Cotman box that I've had for many years. You can see I've used it quite extensively. It's a little swatch that fits right in there, and it's got little names to tell me what colours I have in there as well. This one is my professional watercolours that I currently use. I've done this one a little bit differently. Open that up. So here I've got 3 little strips instead of the whole pack. So that one's the middle one. And you can see I've got 3 little slots for 3 new colours that can fit in there whenever I acquire new colours. This one is for this row. And then this one is for this row here. The idea being that when you've got a colour like this and like this, they look very dark here in the little boxes that they come in, little half pans. But what you get on the paper can look very different. So if you've got a swatch like this, then you know exactly what you're going to get on your painting, and you know what colours you want to select to make your mixes. It just makes things so much easier and so much quicker. You're less likely to make an error because you can see exactly what you're going to get and no mistakes that way. The other way to do it is I've got here a sketchbook. If you've got, for example, these ones, little tubes, I've put them in a sketchbook again so I can see what colours I'm going to get from each tube. Because when they are here on the mixing palette, sometimes the colours don't look the same. So I think that's that one, yeah. So it looks a lot darker than what you get on the paper. Just gives you a really clear idea. I thought you might find it useful. So this one is my husband's watercolours that I've nabbed for this video, if I can hold it open, because he doesn't have a colour swatch in here. And for example, these colours here, they're all really dark. So you don't really know what you're going to get until you start painting with them. And this one is next to some green, so it could be a green. But then next to it is also a purple, so maybe it's a purple. I don't know. We'll find out when we paint with it. But the other way to tell is it will tell you there, intense green. Not all paints do, but these ones do. And the other thing I've done on my ones is I've written down the colours, but for the artist quality ones, I've also written down what series they are. So that's a series 4, that's a series 1. Series 4 again, series 1. This is so that when I run out of a paint, I get an idea of how much it's going to cost me to get a new one, because a series 4 is a lot more expensive than a series 1. And also I've written down these little squares there. They're to tell me if a colour is opaque, like that one, or transparent, like that one. That one's semi-transparent, and that one's semi-opaque. And the other thing is I've written ST for staining. That's to tell me whether a colour, once it's on the paper, is easy to lift off or not. The staining ones, once you've painted with them, they're really difficult to remove. So once they're there, they're there. And the other thing I've written down is if a colour is graining like this cerulean blue. That's when you create a landscape painting and you get that kind of mottled effect. The cerulean blue, because it's naturally graining, will help you do that by itself, while some of the other ones, like that one, that's not graining, so you're going to get a more smooth wash with that one than with that one. That's all the useful information you need before you start painting, so that you can choose your colours more wisely. Of course, this one is a common one, so I have no idea what colours would be staining or graining. A lot of these are man-made pigments, so they might not have that properties. Again, they might. We don't know until we paint with them. So I'm going to start on this one. Again, if I can pry it open. By measuring out this area here. So inches or centimetres, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say 24 centimetres by 7.5 centimetres. And I've got this scrap piece of paper here, which I'm going to cut out to that exact size. So now that I've got my colour swatch, the same size as the paints, I'm just going to measure it and mark it in 3 to give me the 3 rows there. And then each of these looks like just over 1.5 centimetres, 1.6. Yeah, 1.6. So I'll just go and do that and mark up the paper, and you'll see me in a sec. So now that I've got my swatch all gridded up, I'm going to go ahead and start applying the paints to each one of those in a bit of a gradient, so starting from darker to lighter, so I can see the range of each colour that's in there. If you noticed, when I have finished painting the swatch, I dab the excess paint on the paper towel. This is so that it keeps my water from going murky too quickly, and it just lasts that little bit longer. So that's it for the colour swatch. You can see them all beautifully there. So I'm just going to let these all dry out, and then I'm going to lift out each one of these so I can see what colour it is. Get it there. And then write down on the swatch in a permanent pen what colours they are, so that we know for the future what we're using. I've got a few here that haven't quite dried, but I figured if I start from this end and work my way down, by the time I get round here, they'll hopefully have dried. So I've got a palette knife here. This is to help me just lift them out of the box so I can see what name is on all of those, so I can write those correctly. And I have a Indian ink waterproof pen, which will help me write this down. It's quite a small one, and it means that it won't fade over time, so my writing won't disappear. So I'm going to put all of these back in the exact same order I took them out of, because if I mix them up, then my swatch won't be in the right order, and that will be a problem. So just be careful that if you do pry them out to get the names off, that you put them in the same place. So now that this is all finished, I can see that I actually got 2 yellow ochres, I've got 2 ultramarines, I've got 2 alizarin crimson, and instead of a Chinese white and a titanium white, they are both Chinese white there. That's a little bit disappointing that they've got 2 of them and they're exactly the same one. That one, at least it's Hooker's Green Light and Hooker's Green Dark, so that's okay. There are still 2 different colours. another interesting thing to note is there are some colours that are just not as intense as others. That Prussian blue there, I really struggled to get the pigment out of that onto here. While the turquoise next to it, no problem. That came out really, really dark without any effort whatsoever. So when you do this, you also learn a little bit more about your paints, how they behave. They all have a slightly different character to them. So I like to think of them as characters. They all have different qualities and they all behave a little bit differently. And the last little quick note, that colour that I didn't know what it was, it's a dioxazine violet. I hope I've said that right. That's the colour. I wasn't sure if it was a green or a purple. So it's a purple. There we have it. So yeah, that's it. So the only thing I've got left to do is put this back on. The swatch can stay there. That's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and let me know in a comment below if this is something you're going to do with your paints or if it's something you already do and have a good habit of. Thank you. Bye.